Let's play a small game. You have to fill in the blanks. A horse lives in a stable. A cow lives in a shade. A dog lives in a kennel. Birds live in a nest. Lions live in a fill in the blanks. What was your answer? Den. Do lions live in a den? Lions are naturally found in two places in the world: savanna grassland in Africa and Gir in Gujarat, India. The most recent lions that have gone extinct are the desert lions that were found in the Maghreb region of North Africa and the Cape lions from the Karoo plains of South Africa. Cave lions, which have been extinct for 14,000 years, actually never lived in caves. The first three things we teach our children about lions are the sound they make, where they live, and that they are the king of the jungle. Technically, two of the three are factually incorrect. Lions are found in grassland and semi-arid regions, not in jungles. And the female lions sometime might use a mound left by other animals to give birth. However, these things have been repeated so many times in fairy tales, movies, school books, and animated series that they have become fact adjacent. So much so that zoos make den for lions to rest, and people assume that is the natural habitat. This shows how language can accustom our mind to see things even when the observable information says otherwise. Take the example of the word you in English language. In almost all major Indian languages, the word you is translated to 2 or 3 different words. In Hindi and Urdu, the word aap is commonly used as the translation of the word you. It is used when the receiver is older than the creator respects them, or they are higher in the social hierarchy than the creator. Then again, the word tum is also commonly used and is translated to you, but for someone who is equal in age, relationship, or social hierarchy. Finally, the word tu is also commonly used and is translated to you, but for someone who is younger in age, relationship, or is lower in social hierarchy. You can see the same thing happening in several languages in this table. As you can see, most of these languages have a separate translation for the word you, especially when you are speaking to elders of your family and respected people of your circle. Bilingual people who speak one of the Indian languages as well as English will tell you that it is considerably difficult to be assertive or angry when you are using aap. It is almost impossible to swear or use abusive words with aap in the sentence. This is but a tiny nudge in everyday conversation. However, when we understand that this tiny nudge has been repeated billions of times over hundreds of generations and thousands of years, it becomes culture. A culture that makes it difficult to disobey and disrespect your elders and disregard their opinion. This is an example of linguistic relativity, popularly known as Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. It is defined in 2 different ways. Strong form suggests that language determines thought, which means that the structure of a language limits and shapes cognitive categories. So according to strong form, if a language has no future tense, the speaker will not be able to perceive a future. Needless to say, this form is mostly rejected by linguistic scholars. A weak form proposes that language exerts a significant influence on thought without strictly determining it. The translation of the word you and its implication in Indian culture was an example of the weak form. It is not that people in India cannot or do not disobey their elders. It is, however, more difficult for people to do so, and so it happens significantly less, especially about major decisions in life such as marriage, buying property, etc. It would be a crime to speak of language and its impact on human mind without speaking about Orwell. His insights on this topic come from an essay he wrote in 1946 named Politics and English Language. He argues in this essay that language is used as a tool for deception. He identifies 4 common tricks of bad writing: dying metaphors, verbal false limbs, pretentious diction, and meaningless words. He also provides 6 elementary rules to combat bad writing and encourage clear thinking. I don't think anyone can explain Orwell better than Orwell himself. So I have provided the link for this essay and a link for the YouTube narration in the video description. If you have not read it before, I would strongly recommend that you read it. In his magnum opus 1984, published in 1949, he introduced the term newspeak. He demonstrated through fiction how language can be used as a tool of control. His day job during the Second World War as a BBC employee was to prepare and deliver propaganda news to India, while millions of Bengalis were starving to death. It gave him the first-hand experience of what propaganda can do. In his private life, he called his job propaganda for coolie countries. Although the book on the surface appears to be a warning against totalitarianism, it was more about the things that we saw happening in our lifetime, like mass surveillance, censoring, and changing of information from facts, etc. Imagine you're sitting at home scrolling through social media. A political post catches your attention. Curious, you open the comment section. At first, it looks like a normal argument. One person supports a policy, another opposes it, a third person disagrees with both. Then you notice a familiar word: anti-national. Someone has been called anti-national. Not anti-nationalist, not opposing to particular political ideology, anti-national. A small difference, just 3 alphabets. But notice what happened. A moment ago, 2 people were debating an idea. Now, one of them is defending his identity. The argument is no longer your political position is wrong. The argument has quietly become, you are the kind of person who stands against your own country. And once that transformation occurs, almost every future insult becomes easier. Traitor, enemy of the state, sellout, disloyal. The discussion is no longer about what someone believes. It is about what someone is. Did you know this trick has been working for over 100 years now? The time and location keeps changing, but the trick doesn't. Italy between 1923 and 1945, Japan between 1930 and 1945, Germany between 1931 and 1945, Spain between 1936 and 1975, Austria between 1933 and 1938, Croatia between 1941 and 1945. In more recent times, we saw it happening in Eastern European countries during and after the collapse of Soviet Union. Then we saw it in Latin American countries. Now the internet has eradicated boundaries. You might be called a traitor by someone who is not even from your country, and you would never know. Using propaganda to make your enemy look like an enemy of the state is one of the oldest tricks in the book of politics. This is the power of language that Orwell worried about. Sometimes propaganda do not require lies. Sometimes all it requires is replacing one syllable with another. We might not have got Orwell's version of newspeak, but we got other things that are a derivation of the same philosophy. So we got what I call corporate speak and government speak. Words and phrases that you and I have heard, like let's circle back, which means I don't have the answer and I am going to ignore your mail. We are a family, which means I want you to work as hard as possible but don't ask for appraisals. Meaningless words that gets thrown around for no reason. Synergy, top-down approach, strategic alliances, and so many more. Then we listen to government speak. A skirmish at the border is two soldiers losing their limb and one life. Raising the tax bracket means we are going to tax the middle class so that the rich can live tax-free. And taxing the import means we are asking you to pay more for the goods that you need. The greatest magic of these words is not that they elude directness of the situation. They also reach the receiver of communication, muddled, mellowed down, and often confusing. We have heard and read all these terms being used, and we knew that either these phrases are nonsense or they mean something else. However, it is difficult to figure out exactly what these words and phrases correspond to unless we are observant. Observation is a skill that is much less discussed than it should be. Maybe because it is difficult for most of us to observe without intrusion. However, it can provide insights that no other skill can. Observation facilitates understanding of the unsaid. For example, text messages are a common form of communication nowadays. You would agree that they are also responsible for large number of miscommunication. For obvious reasons that things like body language, tone, posture, and other physical attributes are missing. We usually respond to texts as quickly as possible. But simple observation like no capital letter use or no use of punctuation at times say more than the words do. It is only through observation skill as a receiver in communication that over the years I have designed a process for myself that I call Shrewd Empathy. The terminology is not important, but many of you have done similar things, and whenever you have been able to execute it properly, it was because of your observation skills. You might have read in self-help books or seen in self-help videos that we should listen to respond, not react. You might have noticed that they fail to provide how to do that in practice. Imagine that you're a man in his late 30s, has a good job, good pay, a wife, and a 5-year-old daughter at home. It is an important day as there is a client presentation and your next appraisal hinges on it. You get ready in your best shirt and jacket and sit at the breakfast table. Your daughter, like every day, doesn't want to drink her milk and is arguing with your wife. Suddenly, she whips her hand and knocks over the glass of milk, spilling it on your shirt and jacket. You were tense already and lost your cool. You yell at your daughter before rushing up to your closet to change. You come back down and rush out of the door. You reach your office, and when you get into the presentation room, you realize you left a project file at home. The presentation doesn't go well as the most important data was in the file that you left at home, and the client says they will revisit the proposal later. Your boss is unhappy with you. You return home and find a wife who is angry with you. After you yelled at your daughter and left, your daughter cried the whole morning and then got a fever. The day is ruined. Now let's rewind. Same morning, same good shirt and jacket, same breakfast table. Your daughter spilled the milk on you. You look at your daughter and tell her she should be mindful of her surroundings. You tell her, "See, you ruined daddy's good shirt." She says, "Sorry, daddy." You tell her that you will talk about it in the evening when you are back from work. You go back to your closet and change your clothes. You were running late and so you try to rush out. Your wife says, "Hold it, honey." She reaches you at the door with the file you were forgetting, kisses you and wishes you luck for the presentation. The last thing that you see before you leave your home is a smiling wife and a giggling daughter. How do you think the rest of the day is going to be? This is the power of shrewd empathy. Anyone can knock over a glass from a table, including you. Your daughter is a child who is still learning her spatial surroundings. It is easy to be a good parent when life is easy, but it is important to be a good parent when it isn't. Now, since it was a child and that to your daughter, this behavior will work. However, in the real world, if you practice only empathy in every conversation, you will be taken advantage of. Shrewd empathy is a simple habit. Before responding to what someone said, ask why they said it. Psychology has long contrasted reaction, fast, unconscious, survival oriented, often regrettable, with response, slower, conscious, integration of value and context, more ecological for relationship and long-term goals. Shrewd empathy is the cognitive bridge that makes the shift possible. It inserts a deliberate pause for intention inference. This image illustrates the basic mechanism: subconscious or automatic pathways versus conscious choice. Shrewd empathy strengthens the conscious route by supplying richer data, the why. In increasingly simulated or algorithm-curated environment, messages arrived stripped of rich context. Shrewd empathy becomes a survival skill for distinguishing layer. Is this post from genuine distress, performance for engagement, or an AI-assisted persona? Future generations raised in high-fidelity illusions may need explicit training in this to avoid treating every surface signal as primary reality. Regular practice can help you with de-escalating conflicts, building trust and safety, improving outcomes in persuasion, parenting, leadership, therapy, and cross-cultural exchange, and cultivating intellectual humility. There could be a few downsides like overinference, emotional labor, and asymmetric power. The easiest way to cultivate it is get slow, not lazy. Before responding or reacting, get as much information as possible. Pause and ask questions. Ask yourself, is this really about what is being expressed in words? Emotions are great human asset, but they are a liability in non-personal or high-stake communication. Understand that this is a skill that is developed with practice over time. Many years ago, in the early days of my employment, I shared living space with some of my college friends. We had a tradition of playing 28, a card game, on Saturday night after dinner. A Bollywood movie named Rockstar had just been released. It was past 3 a.m. Sunday when the song Jo Bhi Main from the movie came up in the playlist. There were 6 of us in the room. When I said, "You guys ever think that this song is about being unable to express?" one of my friends asked, "How?" "It is in the lyrics. Everything that I feel gets ruined when they become words." I mean, we actually cannot describe or put our feelings into words. You can describe the beauty of something you have seen, but you won't be able to describe what you felt. When you go through a breakup, You can tell your friend what happened, but not what you felt, isn't it? Another friend asked, "So, you're saying this song is not about expressing love?" I replied, "No, it is not. Because you can name emotions like love, anger, or sadness, but naming them is not the same as communicating what they feel like." We got silent for a few minutes. We stared at a blank space while the song played, cards held in our hand. Silence is a great communicator, for if it were not, we would have no art, music, creative thinking, or anything beautiful humans have ever made. I will leave you with the immortal sentiments of Ludwig Wittgenstein. Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent.